Hello everybody, I'm Mango Thunderslice, and today we're talking about why liberals are wrong about everything. You know, it's time to circle the wagons a little bit. We've covered a lot of good topics so far in 2019, from the border wall, to the Covington kids, to the New York and Virginia abortion laws, and mandatory vaccination laws, and now we're here at the global warming debate again with the Green New Deal. And yeah, basically, we've covered a lot of ground over the last 2 months, and it's time to basically just bring it all together again, right? So, you know, it started with the border wall and separating families, right? Very interesting when liberals try and, you know, pretend like they care about families, especially when they go on and some kids who are, you know, just some good-hearted kids who are out there, you know, making political statement by attending the pro-life rally, saying that they value the lives of all human beings, including the unborn, right? And they get heckled by some racist black Hebrew Israelites while they're waiting for a bus. Some, you know, stolen valor Indian communist comes up and bangs a drum in a kid's face, and the kid just stands there smiling, and he is painted by all the liberals in America as the epitome of white male racism in this country, right? And people, Hollywood liberals, high-profile, blue checkmark people, are calling for violence against these kids because they were standing there waiting for a bus, and they started singing their school spirit song while they were being called horrible things by these people, these racist black Hebrew Israelites there, and the media calls them a few African Americans preaching the Bible, and here's this kid just smiling, wearing a red hat, and he's basically Adolf Hitler reincarnated. Right, so after the separating families, right, for irresponsible people who brought children to a border, a violent, essentially war zone, controlled by the cartels, right, 4 out of 5 women get sexually assaulted or raped along the way, and liberals want to say it's compassionate to be encouraging that. I mean, how could you say you're in favor of women and women's rights and protecting women and then encourage illegal immigration? It's a position only for those with severe cognitive dissonance who have no rationality whatsoever to their positions. Then we go to the New York abortion law, and the Virginia governor, Ralph Northam. They legalized third trimester abortion in New York, late-term abortion, which of course when the baby's in the late term, it's a viable human. In an emergency C-section, they could take that baby out and it would survive. I think there's babies that have been born, you know, even at like 30 weeks and they've survived, right? It totally encompasses the third trimester, right? And then there's Governor Ralph Northam in Virginia saying after the baby's already born, you could have an abortion. That's infanticide. That's killing a baby. That's like, even like the Mongols and the Huns of ancient times are like, bro, that's some evil shit right there. Like, are you serious? And here we have the Democrats today, promoters of women's rights, saying that basically she has the right to kill her own child because her body, her choice. I'm sorry, that's not her body. That's the baby's body. And anybody who suggests otherwise is not being rational, they're being evil, right? And then the Virginia governor gets caught with his yearbook photos, either wearing, one of two people, either wearing a Klansman hood or wearing blackface, right? And his nickname in his yearbook was the Coon Man, all right? And this is the guy who got elected to Virginia governor about how racist the Republicans are and how evil they are and how they hate minorities, right? This guy gets elected, and yeah, it turns out he's a closet Klansman. And the crazy thing also is that liberals will deride and smash him and call for him to resign over the blackface or the Klan hood, which is bad, okay, looks really bad, and they don't give a damn about him saying that babies can come out of the womb and then be killed by the doctor because it's her body, her choice. It's a joke. Anybody who believes this is insane, completely insane. And then at the same time, after my body, my choice, and when it doesn't apply at all in that situation, they'll go to mandatory vaccination laws and say, your body, the state's choice, especially that of your child. The state owns your body and your kid's body, so you don't get to decide. Here in California, we had SB 277, which eliminated the philosophical and personal exemption to the vaccine schedule for children. So they got rid of that. The only exemption now that exists is a medical exemption. They say a doctor has to give you permission to not take the childhood vaccine schedule as recommended by the CDC. And so, on top of that, then there's doctors who are exercising their medical practice and issuing these exemptions after evaluating the parent and the child in the situation. And what happens? The California Medical Board, like in the case of Dr. Bob Sears down in Orange County, the medical board comes in and says, you're not doing it the way we want you to. We're going to suspend your license and you're going to play nice and you're going to issue those vaccines. So is it the doctor's decision or is it not? Because the whole premise of SB 277 was the doctor knows what's best, and that's why we'll leave the medical exemption. Now you have progressive authoritarians like California State Senator Richard Pan coming out and saying, let's get rid of the medical exemption because we don't actually care about children, we don't care about science, we don't care about medical conditions or vaccine injury, we care about our communist agenda of mandatory vaccination. It has nothing to do with public health. As we showed in the videos that we just did on vaccines, the risk from vaccine injury, the risk of vaccine injury from the vaccine schedule is orders of magnitude greater than the risk of all childhood febrile infectious diseases combined. You want to tell me that you're afraid for my child because of the measles? And then you want to mandate vaccination? Not just for children, but they are going for adult vaccination. Healthy People 2020, Google that one. This is all a preamble for the Democrats' own plan that they've already released. They want mandatory adult vaccination programs. And the way to get to that, they're bringing it up now in 2019 to create this whole fear campaign and get people scared out of their minds of measles, which is not a deadly disease. Nobody's died of measles in decades, not in the industrial world. Maybe in the Congo where people are drinking water infected with their own shit, okay? But that's not, the problem isn't that they don't have vaccines. The problem is they're drinking shitty water, okay? It's very, very simple. And that's why we saw the decline of infectious diseases radically, exponentially before the vaccines were even introduced. Because guess what? We had improvements in sanitation. We had cleaner water to drink. We had better nutritional components, right? If you get a certain amount of vitamin A, you can reduce the effects of measles by a huge degree and making it so that it's virtually impossible to die from it. But we don't talk about nutrition. We don't talk about, the nuances and complexity of the human immune system and the biological, just majesty and miracle of the human body. Now let's talk about humans as a meat sack that are just destined to get diseases and die. And so the best thing we can ever do for them is inject this vaccine into them. Doesn't matter if it's got all these aluminum salts. Doesn't matter if it's made with aborted fetal tissue. Doesn't matter if, it's causing statistically significant risks of, neurological damage in children. Let's just go for, let's prevent the measles, which doesn't even exist anymore. And even the outbreaks that happen, if the measles virus was eradicated, it can't come back. But when you take the measles vaccine, children shed the virus, okay? So these infections are from kids shedding the measles virus, not from the wild virus. It's a joke. Polio, oh, my polio. Literally 0.1% to 0.2% of polio infections are paralytic. The rest have no symptoms whatsoever. And they want to say, oh, my polio, right? It's a joke. Nobody has polio anymore. The virus is gone, so we don't need to vaccinate for it. And again, the only infections that people have today is from the vaccine. It's a joke. And again, these liberals want to say, my body, my choice for an abortion, when it's not her body. And then in the case of vaccination, oh, it's not your body, it's not your child's body, you're all the property of the state, and we know what's best for you. It's a joke. These people are communist authoritarians, and no one should take them seriously. Nobody. Right? Global warming narrative, right? We went over how that's completely pseudoscience and an appeal to authority, and we've shown that that authority is fraudulent. Right? NASA and NOAA have systematically altered the data to reduce warming peaks in the 1930s, as well as cooling during the Maunder minimum, and as well as heating during the medieval warm period. They completely cherry-picked the data. They fraudulently picked the data from a computer model, not from reality. They skew the graphs so that they only show a recent rising trend in the late 20th century, and they eliminate all data that contradicts their absurd narrative. That's not science, my brothers. That's pseudoscience, and nobody with a rational brain can conclude anything otherwise when you actually look at the granular data and see how much they're emitting in this narrative of, it's all going to end in 12 years. Oh, the glaciers. Al Gore said there was not supposed to be any ice in the Arctic during the summer in 2014. Okay, the ice caps are still there. They're doing just fine. Antarctic ice is like at a record high. They say, oh, global warming's causing the polar vortex to bring all this bone-chillingly freezing weather down in the United States. Okay, guys, whatever. And they want to say $5 billion for a border wall is too expensive and a waste of money. And then they'll say $93 trillion for a Green New Deal, and they'll, oh wow, that sounds great. You guys are completely ridiculous. Anybody who takes this seriously is fundamentally insane, right? They are intellectually challenged individuals, and again, this should not be mainstream political discourse. This should be on the sidelines, treated the same as Richard Spencer and the ethno-nationalists, and basically like alt-right, you know, neo-Nazis, because it's equal levels of absurdity on the fringe, okay? It doesn't make sense, and no one can convince me otherwise, because I actually look at the data, like we've seen in the videos. You want to know? Go look. Right? Protecting future generations by legalizing infanticide, i.e. late-term abortion, protecting future generations by letting drug cartels and human traffickers in, calling for violence and censorship against kids who disagree with your insane communist narrative, enforcing permanent neurological injury, re-mandatory vaccination laws, and squandering future wealth with socialist policies like the Green New Deal and everything Bernie Sanders advocates for. Bernie Sanders also, and now one of the frontrunners of the Democratic, goof troop for 2020. This guy comes out and says, my parents never gave me millions of dollars to build a a future business empire, like taking a jab at Trump. It's like, dude, you never had a real job until you were 40 years old, okay? And then you started working in government, meaning you do nothing. And you have a net worth of $2 million and you have a mansion house, right? Like this whole like email thing with Hillary Clinton and WikiLeaks, and how the whole Russiagate came into play was to mask the fact that the DNC emails that were released by WikiLeaks showed that Bernie got robbed, and that the whole delegates and super delegates of the Democratic Party and the Democratic primary were already set to go for Hillary no matter what happened. They rigged it against Bernie and for Hillary. And after that, what do you get? Bernie coming out being a little bitch, little sycophant, and sitting up there with Hillary and the rest saying, oh, Russia's a threat to our democracy. You twat, okay? The entire Russian narrative came forth to prevent people from knowing that you got jacked and you got Jewed by Hillary Clinton in the election. And then you want to play their game and go with the party line? You're a joke. If anybody thinks that Bernie will stand up for you, the American poor, not saying you're the American poor, will stand up for the American poor or for anybody else in America, and he won't even stand up for himself, you're a joke. And he's a joke. Everyone on the left is a joke. There used to be smart liberals, I will admit. Jimmy Dore is actually one of the only liberals today that still has a semi-functioning brain, because he can realize that the media lies, okay? Imagine that. Liberals used to know that the media lies, and now it's everybody just buying it, hook, line, and sinker. And I at least appreciate smart liberals like Jimmy Dore who know enough to question the media narrative and not just lap it up like Kool-Aid, right? You know, I will give credit where it's due. But there are some smart liberals, but good God, people, it's like 0.0. You've got a better chance of being a smart liberal in the Democratic Party than you than you have from dying of measles. Completely ridiculous to say that any of these positions make any sense at all. But that's what the left endorses wholesale now. And the ones that don't are, called Nazis like the rest of us. And moving on to the gun control fallacy. Disarming legal citizens to protect the children. It's a joke, right? There's no evidence whatsoever that gun control spaces and communities are any safer than communities that respect the Second Amendment. In fact, there's plenty of evidence to the contrary. But again, liberals don't believe in data. They don't believe in logic. They just believe in whatever feels nice and whatever Rachel Maddow tells them on the TV. It's a joke, right? Platform censorship, authoritarian progressives. These are people who used to say, oh, free speech, we're civil libertarians. And then Alex Jones and a bunch of other people get banned from Twitter, and they're like, yay, take down the racists, me, 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 right? It's so sad and pathetic to see this, right? And these people think that they're doing good by actually calling for censorship. They know that the state can't censor because it's the First Amendment. It's what our country was built on. It's the most fundamental freedom we have as Americans. But let's just throw it all aside because of social justice warrior nonsense, right? That's a good idea. I mean, and that's what it's about, the media mind control. Accepting fundamentally absurd narratives fake news, right, by appealing to authority, right? It's just because the television tells them or some politician tells them, they just believe it. Or some commie professor in our university tells them something and they believe it as the gospel truth. They don't question anything that they're told if it's told to them by their cult members, right? And it's a liberal cult. So the global warming is a religion. It has nothing at all to do with science. If you think it does, you don't know anything about science or global warming in the data, right? Russiagate, the ultimate nothing burger, tinfoil hat conspiracy theory promoted by liberals in this country for the last 2.5 years. Now we're coming to the ignominious end of this thing, and they're saying, oh, there may not even be a report. Well, at least they were saying that. Now I see it's set to come out on Amazon on March 26th, right? It's like, where's the report to the American? They just go straight to Amazon with the book deal. We're not, after 2.5 years of complete buffoonery and nonsense and conspiracy theory, just nothing. We get the absence of a report, or, oh, he cavorted with Russian. Like, there's nothing there. And these are people who will call us conspiracy theorists while they believe this stupid shit, okay? I mean, can you really believe that this is an actual debate we're having? It's like, I feel like I'm arguing against a parody account. I feel like I'm arguing against, like, Monty Python's impression of a hypothetical, crazy, insane communist social justice warrior. But it's the real narrative that these people are putting out. Right, and meanwhile, the Clintons sold 20% of United States uranium to Russia after Russia donated like $150 million to the Clinton Foundation. Oh yeah, that's not collusion, right? But Trump, by winning the election on his own merit and defeating the evil hag Hillary Clinton, right? That's he must be a Russian, right? There's no way he could have won on his own merit, and there's no way that Americans would actually have chosen him, a strong and hilarious and effective businessman, versus an evil hag who has done nothing good in her entire political career or career otherwise, right? Major event narratives, you know, this is a big part of it. It's not as big of a part of it in the day-to-day minutia, but it does fundamentally play into the difference between the liberal psychology and the conservative psychology. Things like the JFK assassination, things like 9/11. If you believe the official story on any of these major events, you have to basically lobotomize yourself. You have to suspend all belief in logic and reality to believe that a plane and jet fuel can incinerate and turn to powder an 110-story skyscraper in 10 seconds. You have to be basically in a little world of fluff. This is all cotton balls in here, if you honestly think that's possible. Not only that, there's all these other weird anomalies of that day. I don't know if I've actually done a video about 9/11. I know I've talked about it in a bunch of them, but, you know, very, very strange things that you know, are so strange that people don't even have the vocabulary mentally to explain this or even theorize about it in the conspiracy theories section. Right? Things like a hurricane was heading towards New York that day, and it took a hard right, a 90-degree angle, and basically flew away from New York up the north coast. That, you know, people, if they were to understand what happened on 9/11 and what brought down those towers, it would fundamentally change their entire conception of technology and the world around them. And for those who aren't already kind of acclimated to the idea that their government would lie to them and is willing to kill them for their own ulterior political ends, that would blow their mind and they would completely lose it. For us, we already know these things, so it's really just a technical matter of how did they do it, right? We already know that they're willing to kill us. We know that they're willing to lie to us. We know that they're willing to cause false flags for the sake of their world empire and, you know, the sake of their elite grift system, you know, so then it's just a question of exactly how did they do it, right? And, you know, there's no connection to reality. It's just an appeal to authority. The magic bullet theory with Kennedy, again, complete absurdity. You have to be self-lobotomized to believe that's even possible at all. There's no facts or logic in any of the liberal positions. It's just narrative, ostracization, shame. Shame the non-believer. Shun the non-believer. Right? That's all they've got. Because if they bring it down to facts and logic and actual head-to-head narrative versus narrative, they will lose. And that's why they focus on deplatforming, because they know that their positions are untenable. They know that they're spewing ridiculous nonsense on some fundamental unconscious level. And that's why they seek to silence their opponents, because they know they're lying. Racism in America, the ultimate lie. They are now making up fake hate crimes Because there are no real hate crimes. There are no violent Trump supporters attacking minorities. It doesn't exist anywhere in the country. It never has. Not in the Trump years. Maybe back in 1920s when the Virginia Democrats back there weren't just wearing Klan hoods in jest. They were wearing Klan hoods because they were Klan members, right? Just like Woodrow Wilson. And of course, we've had plenty of racist Democrats down through the years, from Franklin Delano Roosevelt imprisoning hundreds of thousands of Japanese Americans in concentration camps. We got Lyndon Baines Johnson with the Great Society Act saying I'll have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years by giving them welfare and destroying the black American family, getting the black father out of the house, giving welfare to the black mother, to just have a bunch of kids and get on welfare, putting crack cocaine into those communities. Of course, George Bush and the Clintons were the ones moving that coke up from South America into Mena, Arkansas, and it's all part of this big global empire. The euro-dollar system and the Federal Reserve and the financial cartels, right? This is all part of a coherent empire. It is the legacy of Rome. And I've been trying to show people this. It's a huge topic, and you have to be not just extremely intelligent, but also very, very versed in history and psychology and politics to even understand the idea that we live in the new Roman Empire, and it spans more than just the United States. And there is the new aristocracy. They're related to the old aristocracy, and they are deathly afraid of people waking up to information like this and challenging their stranglehold on the mind of the population. The wars of today are not primarily fought on the battlefield. They're fought in the minds of the people, right? That is where this battlefield is taking place, and you can consider me a wing commander of that battle. So yeah, there is no racism in America except for the racist Democrats who believe that everyone is just their sex, their gender, their racial identity. They think that everybody is just their group. Nothing could be more racist than that, and yet they are the ones who come out here saying that we are racist for treating everyone as individuals and promoting that coherent, positive, productive culture of, belief in the divinity of the universe, belief in the miracle of life, belief in responsibility and discipline, and treating other people with respect, right? They make up this whole worldview of this opponent, and it's really sad because in the absence of actual opposition, they will create opposition, and that's where things get really dicey, because this is basically social, low-level false flags. The Jussie Smollett thing, again, you had people coming out and saying, this is the harbinger of racist America attacking on these poor gay black men. And of course, the truth is, again, the true racists in this country are the liberal progressive Democrats, right? These people who absolutely have nothing but hatred and rage against all white people, especially white men in this country. They don't care about any of their constituents. They only care about hating on the white man, destroying capitalism, destroying Western civilization, and masking it all under this, pseudo-communist, social justice warrior, feel-good nonsense that has no basis in reality whatsoever. It just is essentially premised on tricking the brain into believing things that sound nice. And, it's only extremely weak people that can fall for that. And again, there are plenty of people who think themselves to be very, very smart. So many people who have degrees and this or that. But the thing is, they're as psychologically weak as any other member of the species who doesn't have a true sense of sovereignty and individuality, because otherwise it's a social con. It's confirmation bias. It's groupthink, right? When the three people next to you all answer yes to a question, you just answer yes by default. You don't even think about the merit of the question. That is how most people's brains function. It's not how any brain functions that is actually genuinely intelligent and wise. And, this is really the crux of the issue between conservative minds and liberal minds, is that liberal minds they don't think. They don't critically think at all. They will accept the social narrative because other people around them are saying it. The conservative mind is still susceptible to that, but at least they are able to address and contradict some of the things that they are told, right? They have the ability to separate themselves from that feel-good, blah, 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 and say, okay, well, what about this? And it's as soon as that begins that the entire liberal, progressive, communist, authoritarian narrative just completely falls apart. And that's what I'm out here helping to contribute to, with exactly that, right? It's really just communists who hate America versus the children of God. You have people who are materialists, atheists, Satanists, who believe that human life is worth nothing, that third trimester abortion is no big deal, who believe that not letting human traffickers and drug cartels up into our country to kill our citizens and police officers, they think that's racism, right? global warming, which has no basis in reality whatsoever, is the basis of their new religion. They want to spend $93 trillion to solve a problem that doesn't even exist. The sun's going to sleep and we're going to have a mini ice age here over the next few decades, and they're saying, oh, what about my global warming? What about the inexorable heating that couldn't ever be stopped by natural forces, right? What should we do about that? They don't know what to do about it. They don't know anything about resilience. They don't know anything about the climate. They don't know anything about science. And they just go with this narrative. Again, 99.9% of scientists agree, right? It's groupthink, right? That has nothing to do with science. If you're actually evaluating a scientific issue and you go by an opinion poll of scientists, you're an idiot. You're not a scientist. You're a joke. And you're a liberal. Physical and or emotional trauma in the formative years. This is really the genesis of it. This is, the Trump derangement syndrome is a manifestation of deep-set anxiety and emotional trauma, and the legacy of which hasn't fully been cleared. These people haven't done the internal work to address their own psychoses and traumas, and so they project those psychoses and traumas onto the wider external world, right? It's not, it's not them that are racist, it's everyone else that's racist, right? It's not that they are weak and unsuccessful because of their own moral failings, it's that the rest of the society is immoral and capitalism's immoral, right? And I can't protect myself. I'm not confident in my own ability in my body to defend myself, so I want to take away everyone else's guns, right? I'm not healthy, and I think that everybody else is an idiot, so I'm going to take away their ability to choose medical information for medical procedures for themselves and for their children, right? They are insane, and they project their insanity onto the world. And they call this progressive liberalism, and it's supposed to be a serious thing that we're all supposed to, what great ideas they're saying. It's a joke, and anybody who believes otherwise is crazy. And this is the ultimate highest form aspect of the division, is the divine order of the universe versus an inverted reality, an artificial inverted reality, right? Whether it's the sexes, it's the races, it's transgenderism, it's the nature of life and the divinity of this universe, or just, people believing that life is a miracle versus people who believe that life is just this materialist nothing with no purpose whatsoever. And therefore, the most high-value things we can do are just play video games, eat some Cheetos, right? Listen to Rachel Maddow and vote for more communism so you can get more free stuff without having to actually work for it. That's basically the liberal platform today, and it isn't recognized by anybody with even half of a brain. That's why they have to keep bringing in people who are illiterate to vote for it, because they don't even know what they're voting for. They just, more money? Yes, okay. And they vote for it. It's a joke. And anybody who has been in this country and actually doing productive things for any amount of time can see that they're false, can see that they're liars, and that they're selling this feel-good delusion to bring in, less than intelligent people and vote for their own nominal incentive, but actually it's harming them and it's harming everyone. Does welfare to the black community actually help them when it destroys the entire structure of the black family, right? Is abortion women's health care when we have 60% of all black children that would otherwise be born instead getting killed by their own mothers in the womb? I mean, and they want to say this is a profound progressive moral culture and we should all be celebrating our entrance into this communist utopia. Right? Well, I'm not so stoked about it, and I'm not so stoked on letting it happen unchallenged. And again, that's my reason for this channel to exist. I'm not going to cede reality to these crazy communists, right? I will fight on the beaches, we will fight them on the mountains, we will fight them in the water, we will fight them in the air. And I'm more than happy to engage in that fight because, again, it's like I would appreciate it if there were stronger opponents, right? I don't like to fight people who are weaker than me. I don't like to beat up a whole playground full of school children. But that's kind of what it feels like when I'm trying to argue against liberals. But hey, find sport wherever you can in this 21st century. Yeah, on that note, if you're a transgender athlete, you can just go and basically beat up on women, and it's not a crime. It's you can get paid for it, right? You'd be an MMM fighter, right? The MMM fighter back in 2014, a transgender, a man who transitioned to a woman fighting against an actual woman in the MMA cage, and he broke her skull, right? Because we are so insane of elevating the delusion above reality. We want to say men and women are equal, right? Because that sounds nice, okay? And then you put them in a cage against one another, and one crushes the other's skull, and even when the other is an elite fighter in her weight class, right? There is no scientific, biological, or logical or philosophical validity to the arguments of the left. They're not even arguments most of the time. They're just raw, naked statements backed up by emotion, envy, jealousy, greed, rage. And they want to pretend like they're the moral, virtuous paragons of virtue in our society. And it's a joke. Every liberal position is a joke today. And the only liberals who have even half of a brain only can do so because they challenge the media narrative. Anybody who believes what the TV tells them is completely insane, and you should not take them seriously. This is going to come to a head in 2020. We're going to put Trump back in the office, and we're going to get 4 more years, and we're going to keep this culture war going, and we're going to win, because everybody's down for freedom. Everybody knows what reality is intrinsically. It's only these deluded communists in their university enclaves in these liberal cities, these shithole cities, that actually believe that any of it makes any sense at all. But that's my video today. If you've got any comments, concerns, let me know down below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share this video and all the others as far as wide as you can you can find any opposition, right? Because as far as I'm concerned, the videos that we've made have been pretty high quality exposés of the liberal program, and I'd like for them to get more views. I would love to keep making more videos, and if you guys want me to address anything that I haven't quite hit already, feel free and let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll get to it as soon as possible. And on that note, much love to you guys, even the libs, as crazy as you are, because hey, we're all children of God, even if you don't believe that God exists. That's my video. Hope you guys are having a good one. See you next time. Cheers.
Ah.